Good evening and welcome to Education Number One Priority. I'm Dr. Mary Jane Garza. Topic of conversation for this month is leadership women. Yes, indeed. Women comprise in the United States about 50.1% of the population. Here in our own Nueces County, we're about 54.4%. So why is leadership important? Well, if you think about leadership, it's the ability to lead others, to inspire others. So we have programs in Leadership Women that do such that. And it's about four key things. Informing, what's going on and why should you know this? Educating, how do you take what you've learned and apply it? Motivating, attitude of, I can. And inspiring, which says, I will. All of this is part of Leadership Women. And to visit with us today and talk more about the programs is Heidi K. Murray, Chief Operating Officer. Welcome to Education Number One Priority. So pleased to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, first tell us about Heidi. How she got involved in this and why are you part of Leadership Women?
Well, I began my career in performing arts administration, actually. So I have a degree in communications and public relations from the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, Florida. And while I was involved in campus, I got very involved in student government, and I was an elected senator. And one of my duties and one of the committees that I served on was doing events around campus. And so I started gathering information and being very excited about putting on the show very early in my career. So I have a degree in communications. After college, I went to the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. on a postgraduate fellowship and worked in performing arts administration. And mostly what I did there was work with large companies and their logistics about bringing their companies into town, how they had hotel accommodations, their logistics, their transportation, paperwork, and I really fell in love with just operating programs. Mm-hmm. So after that, I had a great career in the hotel business. I was very involved in large-scale conventions and events. I worked in luxury hotels for quite a while, and I loved that work. It was great work. I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. It was kind of meant for me in a lot of ways, and I did very well in that for the first part of my career. It was a great time, and that is where I was introduced to Leadership Women. They were actually one of my clients, and they had been my client for several years. And then one time they were in the hotel, they asked me to attend one of their leadership programs for young emerging women leaders. And at first I thought I didn't really want to spend my only weekend of the month off with my client, but I really thought that was a great opportunity for them to invite me to be in that program. I wanted to learn more about leadership and how to increase my impact and also move my career forward. And so I took the opportunity that they gave me to go to a weekend program. I applied to get into the program and was accepted. And once I got into that program, I was just transformed by the entire experience. I loved it. I fell in love with the organization and what they were doing. It was a personal and professional development weekend where they paired us with mentors that gave us advice about our careers and suggested different paths for our leadership and our trajectories for our careers. I had the opportunity to have dinner with the late Ann Richards, governor of Texas. She sat right next to me at dinner, and I was very inspired by that. And I really just decided after that I wanted to take my skill set and my experience and do something a little different. So I started looking at different options, and I started volunteering with the organization. I served on a committee of the board and started helping them out in my free time, and it became one of the causes that I really wanted to work with. And then after some years and after some persistence, I finally convinced them to hire me. And I've been working with the organization now over 9 years, and I have the incredible opportunity to travel around our state and our nation and even internationally to help produce these amazing women's leadership programs. And it's quite a wonderful opportunity because I tell people that not only do I have the opportunity to go to interesting places and talk to interesting people about interesting things, but I feel like I'm working at the intersection of my skill set and my passion, and that's quite wonderful. So it's wonderful work, and it's a great organization.
So basically, you were inspired.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that will-do attitude.
Absolutely, and I just changed my whole path. And so I left the hotel business after over a decade of work with a very prestigious hotel company, and I've moved to the nonprofit sector, and I've really enjoyed the experiences so far. But when you go along in your leadership path, quite often something's introduced to you, and then you move to a different direction, and it's really wonderful to be open to those opportunities.
Well, I'm glad you shared all that, because that talks about the fact that you really went in a career path where you were exploring all about Heidi herself and that leadership strength. But let's go now and visit a little bit about Leadership Women and some key points in the historical aspect.
Well, we say that Leadership Women is Texas's greatest kept secret. It's a 40-year-old organization. It was started about 40 years ago in Austin by a group of women, Ann Richards actually being one of them. And the whole point of the program was to provide opportunities and create programs for women to be able to move their own leadership journeys ahead. So they started actually publishing some papers, and they wrote a book, this group of women called Women in Texas Politics. They kind of looked around at the time and were shocked that there weren't really women in positions of power at the time. So they really focused on finding ways to move the needle on those numbers and to give women other opportunities and provide pathways for women to find leadership opportunities. So they wrote some papers, they wrote a book. They focused for several years on putting together the Texas Women's History Project, which was a project focused on the specific contributions of Texas women to the history of our state. That project traveled around the state for quite a while, and then one of the founders, Kathy Bonner, went through the Leadership Austin program, and that is similar to many municipal leadership programs. I know Leadership Corpus Christi is an extremely robust organization here in town, so very similar to that, typically run by a chamber. And she was shocked, once again, that she was the only woman in the class. So she went back to her colleagues with the organization and said, we should really try to find a way to create a program like this specifically targeted at women. And what those municipal programs do is they teach business leaders and leaders in the community all about the city and about the issues that they need to be aware of. And so at the time, they thought women at the time needed to know about the issues in the state, and they also needed to know each other and to be able to mentor each other and help each other along their paths, because there were really no organizations at the time that were doing that. And they formed our flagship program called Leadership Texas. It's been running continuously since 1983, and it's the longest running women's leadership program in the country.
Well, let's talk about your flagship program, plus all the other programs.
Yes, 5 programs.
Because as our listeners are listening, they may say, you know what, I'm interested. So let's start off with the flagship, Leadership Texas.
Leadership Texas has been running again continuously since 1983. So that is an application-based program. Women apply, and actually right now in the fall is our application process season. Women apply to be in the program, and we take about 85 to 100 women leaders from all over the state of Texas a year that are awarded positions in the class. And that would be the class of 2017 would be our next class. And we really choose the women in the class from the applications based almost solely on diversity. And what we mean by that is obviously racial and ethnic diversity is important to us, but what we really mean by that is vocational diversity, geographic diversity, socioeconomic, political. We really want to get a group of women in a room together to have a year experience with us that would have never met under any other circumstance. We take them around the state to 4 different cities in a year for about 3 days each and talk about the issues in those cities and in the state and how that reflects on the nation.
Okay, so you said that program currently is open for applications?
Yes, exactly. So we just completed our 3rd session of the 2016 Leadership Texas year right here in Corpus Christi. Had a fantastic program. We're going to finish our year in Austin for the 2016 class, and right now we're accepting applications throughout the fall for our class of 2017. And our 2017 program is going to be visiting Dallas, Lubbock, Bryan College Station, and we'll end our year in Austin. Absolutely.
So that's the flagship program, okay? What other programs do we have?
We have a program called Leadership Launch, which is a series of one-day programs that are offered around the state and around the nation. We typically partner with a higher education institution, and those programs are focused on local leadership, highlighting the accomplishments of local women leaders in that area, and again, bringing together women that can meet each other and help support and mentor each other in that community, specifically talking about personal and leadership development as well as the issues that are happening in their city. We have a program called Leadership Pipeline that is running next year. It's a one time of year. It is a weekend style retreat that's based on personal and professional development. And that was the program that I was a graduate of that inspired me to kind of pursue this line of work. That program runs once a year. And again, an application process. We typically take 45 to 60 young emerging women leaders a year. We define emerging not really by an age, but really just where you are in your career, where you want to now take off and go to the next step. And that really is focused not so much on issues as it is personal and professional development.
And how do you define young?
Young, well, we don't have an age limit on it because women lead from wherever they are, whenever they are.
Okay.
But we typically have, that program is typically late 20s to, I'd say, early 40s.
Okay, all right, and?
We also have a program called Leadership International, very exciting program. It's in its 6th year now. There came a time in our history where we decided you really can't talk about leadership without talking about globalization. The world is shrinking every day and it's getting smaller and smaller, and we really need to know as women leaders what's happening outside of our borders, what are the issues that are global. We are also intertwined now. It's really important to kind of have that perspective of a global perspective. So over its tenure, that program has visited China. We've taken groups of women leaders to the United Arab Emirates. We explored both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We did a program in India that was very interesting, a fantastic program both in the north of India as well as in the south of India. We did a program in South Africa, which was an amazing program, really well received, where we not only looked at issues around a post-apartheid South Africa, being a 20-year-old nation, but also looked at ecological issues. We went on ecological safari. It was a great program. We spent time in Mexico, Mexico City last year, and just a couple months ago, we came back from our 2016 program, which was in Scandinavia, where we visited Copenhagen, Sweden, and Oslo, Norway.
Okay. Basically, you talked about the globalization, and I heard you talk about different parts of the world.
And our America program as well.
Okay, and that's my next question. So do you have a program that deals just with?
Absolutely. So our Leadership America program has been running since 1988 continuously. And again, it's a very similar footprint to our Leadership Texas program. Women, again, from all over the country apply to get into the program. We accept them based on their qualifications, their applications, as well as a number of metrics that we look at. And we take that class to 3 different cities throughout the year. This year we visited Washington, D.C., Phoenix, and New Orleans. And our 2017 class is scheduled to go to Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and then Chicago.
Okay, so basically, is that it, or is there another program?
Those are the 5 programs that we do, and we really have that menu of programs, that array of programs, because we want to provide options wherever women are in their leadership journey, wherever they have time for it, that particular time in their life, whatever might be of interest to them. And so we want to be have a little bit of everything to offer women wherever they are in their leadership journey.
It sounds like basically what I'm hearing you say is one size doesn't fit all.
That's correct.
So therefore, wherever you may be. So is there a particular sequence, or can someone just look at that and just say, you know, I'd like to do Leadership America. I'd like to do Leadership International. I'd like to do the pipeline. Or do they have to go through a stepping stone of any kind?
They don't currently have to go through a stepping stone. We are looking at creating a more sequential curriculum, but right now women have elected at different times in their career path based on the time they have available, what organization they might be working for, based on what their interests are even. And women can do this all over. They find their way to us through these programs in a variety of ways. And we welcome all the opportunities to meet these women wherever they are in their leadership journey.
And I'm glad you said journey, because and I'm glad, and I know you're looking at a sequential process, but the way you currently have it, a woman in their 50s may say, I'd rather do America and I'd rather do international, while a woman in their 20s may say, I'd like to do the emerging program and then move forward. So you really provide for all segments of not only diversity in age, but also in the professional career.
Absolutely, absolutely. We actually have a lot of women that go through our Leadership Texas program that find themselves in their mid or later career in Texas. They might have had careers outside of Texas, and it's a great way to learn about the issues of the state. And our state is so huge and so diverse, and there's so many communities that are incredible to explore. So we even see a lot of women come do our Leadership Texas program after they've been involved in the rest of the United States and now want to learn more about Texas if they find themselves here.
Well, as I was reading about your programs, I think one of the things that really amazed me was the fact that once they graduate from a program, they can come back to a certain session that you may be doing in a subsequent year. Because I thought, well, maybe they'd want to do it 2 or 3 years, but there's no reason, because you can select the following year. You may be going to a different city that person may want to do.
Absolutely, and we are really all about continual learning. This idea of having a life of the mind, which means you're always continually learning. You have different interests at different points in your career. For instance, at our recent Scandinavian program, we had some women attend that program who had graduated from our Leadership Texas program in the 90s and have been engaged with us, continue to follow us, engage with us in certain ways along the way. And this was another opportunity many years after they had done their first program with us, but they found that part of the world interesting and wanted to learn about what was going on there with education and healthcare and connectivity of the future. And we try to have multiple programs so women can engage with us wherever they are, and even multiple times. We want that to be the case for women and touch them in multiple times and be a part of truly building their leadership journey.
And again, it's the building aspect, it's the continual learning, and the fact that leadership styles change, the fact that leadership throughout the world changes.
Absolutely.
And in so doing, mindsets change as well.
Absolutely.
Well, basically, if women want to find out more about this, again, they visit their website, which we will be showing at the end of the program.
Yes.
And what if they have questions? Is there a way that they can visit with anybody by telephone?
Absolutely. I have the privilege of speaking with women from all over the nation often. Our entire staff does, and we are happy to answer any questions about that. We tell women that if the program sounds interesting to you, but you just don't have time for it right now, find out a little bit more about it and apply and get in anyway, because it's probably not going to get any better. As busy working women who have many obligations in their home, in their communities, as well as their organizations or businesses, it's very difficult sometimes to want to carve out the kind of time it takes for this. And it seems as if it's a large commitment of time, but really it's an investment. It's an investment in their own journey. It's an investment in their own knowledge base. It's a way to increase their skill set, and it's certainly a way to exponentially increase their network.
And ultimately increase the leadership of women in the state and
yes,
in the nation
that
as well.
is exactly what our goal is.
All right. You've talked about those 5 programs. It sounds like you're continually thinking of new programs that are going. Is there anything out there that's going to be a little bit different that's coming down that somebody say, gee, besides this, I can also look forward to?
Yes, we are very excited to announce that next year we're going to be having an annual meeting for Leadership Women. It'll be the last weekend in July of 2017, and we want this to be the inaugural event for a meeting that will hopefully be annually offered every year after that. We're starting the program in Dallas, so in 2017 it will be in Dallas, but we're looking to really expand that footprint and have it in multiple cities around the country. That program will be open to women that are graduates of ours, as well as women who have not gone through our programs but are interested to learn more about that. So we'll be focusing on national and international issues. It's also a way for women to network together, and we're very excited about that program. So please look out for information on that, and certainly our website will soon have information about that as well.
You know, as I was listening to you, and I counted the word network at least 6 times. And so why is networking so important and so valuable?
Well, we think it's important because that is really how women can find access to leadership positions. And really, I think women are, in general, really want to help other women bring themselves up, and women that have achieved some position of prominence or leadership, it's really their duty to kind of look behind them and give a hand up to the next generation of women. And we feel like that is really important for us. We were formed, almost 40 years ago, and at the time, we were formed really to provide pathways to leadership for women. There just weren't that many positions of leadership at the time. Now we're in a place in our history when women have much more pathways to leadership. They're gaining positions of leadership, but we really find that often that happens in a silo, and it happens in a vocational silo. So women are becoming the president of the Bar Association, they're making partners at their law firms, they're becoming deans of colleges, they're academics, they are running for public office, and we have women in those positions of power, but often it happens in their own silo. And our point of our programming is to break them out of those silos and get them out of their boxes, if you will. So we try to create a program where women can increase their level of influence and their sphere of influence by knowing other women outside of what they do, outside of their own vocation, outside of their city, certainly, and even outside of their state. And by knowing women in those other areas, there's something that happens with those women that want to help other women, and you have a network to bounce ideas off of, ask for suggestions, and it's really quite a powerful tool. You can't underestimate the power of your network, and this is a way to exponentially increase it with women that you would have never met under any other circumstance.
You know, as I heard your response to that question, I was also thinking when you were saying about the silo, it also allows women to become educated in other fields besides the one that they're an expert in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we try to offer a variety of topics in our program, and we know that we can't offer something for every single person, but the point really of the program is for you to learn about things completely outside of your sphere of influence. And so we talk about science and technology. We talk about the economy. We talk about education issues. We talk about healthcare, globalization, technology, all different types of topics. And so wherever you are in that sphere or along that continuum, you are constantly able to learn about things outside of that, which we really feel increases your ability to be a leader. It increases your awareness of issues and really just opens your mind to other ways of doing things. It might be that you have an attorney who goes to a science, informational program, and we talk about science, for instance, in the Gulf of Mexico, and they learn about a holistic approach to what scientists are doing that they can then even apply to what they're doing in their organization and how they manage people. So that's really the magic that happens in the program.
Well, now I'm going to ask you in terms of numbers, because here are all these programs, been in existence, 40 years. Flagship program began 35 years, and you have all of these other 4 programs in addition. About how many women have been influenced because of this?
About 8,000 women have gone through our programs and been impacted by these programs. We're really proud of that number. We continually say it's the best kept secret in Texas. We kind of call it the Good Old Girls Network. And we're really quite famous within our own network for women that even didn't go through programs with each other, but through the database and through knowing other graduates of our program in other years. There's lots of great stories of women who have decided, for instance, to run for office. And so they might connect to another Leadership Texas or Leadership America woman who ran for office in her community, doesn't know her personally, might not have gone through the same class with her, but can call her and say, I'm a graduate of this program, I'm involved with this group, and I'd like your help. And women pick up the phone and help each other. It's really amazing.
Goes back to the networking.
It goes back to the network. It's all about the network.
Well, now I've got to ask you, because you've been talking about the program, what do the women say after they have gone through the program? Do you remember any of the things that they say as they depart, or they share with you either by email or just simply talking to you?
You know, one of the greatest pleasures I have is hearing some of the responses that women have to our programs, and it's so great. We have a wonderful staff that works on these programs, and we often hear that women say that this was just transformational for them, as it was for me when I went through this program. They say that they would have never thought of things in that way, and it explained so much to them. They are able to be really creative afterwards. We hear a lot of people talk about the value of the diversity of thought, and just by seeing things in a different way, how that really creates innovation and creativity for them in their own work. We hear quite often women say, you know, I have found my tribe. You know, this is a group of women who are like-minded from very different backgrounds, from very different organizations and places, often very different political spectrums, but they find these common ground of women who want to learn about issues and impact our society, and it's really wonderful.
Okay, in 30 seconds, please tell me, why are women leadership programs important?
You know, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot, and the reason, you just have to look at the numbers for that. As you mentioned before, we're over 50% of the population as women, but when you look at C-suites, when you look at elected officials, when you look at board positions and corporate and nonprofit boards, women are just not represented. We don't have parity like we do. We're educated, we are over 50% of enrolled programs, and we need parity in that way.
Well, you know, you and I could keep talking about this topic.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure, thank you.
Okay. Well, as you can see, Leadership Women provides a pathway to discovery for people to educate, inform, motivate, and inspire one to continue to moving forward. This has been Education #1 Priority. I'm Dr. Mary Jane Garza.